All right, welcome everybody to our February professional development course. I'm excited to have Lezlee Hatch. I've known Lezlee for quite a while, and she's a very fun person to listen to. So you're going to be well entertained and informed today. So today, well, our the Utah State University Extension Remote Online Initiative is a program that was developed in 2018, and we've grown ever since then. And our goal is to teach people how to work remotely, work from home, and it's been an awesome experience over the last 3 or 4 years. Our initiative is designed to prepare rural communities and individuals for the future by offering them relevant educational experiences, connecting people to modern employment opportunities, and developing innovative solutions for the community needs. And we offer a few different certifications. We offer the Remote Work Professional course. That's for people who are looking for work and employment. And we teach them how to succeed in remote work. We have a leadership course, which is focused on employers and people who lead remote teams. And today's presentation is going to be heavily geared towards the leadership aspects. And then we have a new program called the Certified Tech Sales Professional. And this is a program that was through Ready Utah and MarketStar. And it is a employment opportunity where you take our professional course, then you take the Certified Tech Sales Professional, and you have a guaranteed interview with MarketStar, which is a great company here in Utah. And so if you are interested in any of those classes, our website is remoteworkcertificate.com/pro. And pro is for the professional course, and then we have a /leader. And the tech sales course, if you go into our course offerings, you'll be able to find that there. So today, I'm going to put the agenda in our chat here. So we'll do the announcements, which is what we just did. And then we'll introduce our speaker and do some, whoops, I didn't change the speaker name.
I can be whoever you want me to be. I'm flexible.
Yes, this is the fun part of copying and pasting, right? You have to look through everything. So Lezlee Hatch is going to be our speaker, and she is accompanied here by Marianne DeWitt, and she's the one to make sure that things don't explode, which we like to have. All right, and then so just a couple announcements. We have so our next course, our professional course, the deadline for registration for that is today, but we have a class coming up in March if you missed that, for those that are watching this later. So if you're interested in that. We also have our leadership course will not be happening in February, but it happens in March. So that's the next opportunity for that. And the tech sales course, again, is also deadline, I think today or tomorrow for that. Let's see. All right, without further ado, let's do an introduction. So like I said, I've known Lezlee for a while, and she is a very energetic speaker and presenter. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. So she's a human resource professional with more years experience than she wants to admit. She feels blessed in her career to work for both private, public, and nonprofit organizations, from large corporations to small businesses. Within a variety of industries, she has enjoyed HR management at all levels. She is a self-proclaimed business nerd with a love for all things business, and particularly the energy of a small to medium-sized business. She is fascinated by the topics of motivation, engagement, sustained growth, and mental wellness in the workplace and beyond. She has a bachelor's degree from Utah State University, go Aggies, with a minor in psychology. She has received her PHR, Professional of Human Resources, and SPHR, the Senior Professional of Human Resources certifications, and actively advocates for humane policy management, and mental wellness in the workplace. She is currently a senior human resources consultant for Impact HR Group, assisting small to medium-sized businesses with legal compliance, strategic human capital management, inclusion, diversity and equity, employee relations, and culture creation, along with common sense policy with her husband. Let's see, policy development. I skipped a line.
That's okay.
She has been a resident of Utah County for 24 years, along with her husband, gratefully to raising their 3 sons here. She loves music and the arts, hiking Utah's mountains, serving others, and laughing, and all things people. So welcome, Lezlee, and we'll leave you to it.
I feel like I just attended my funeral. That's so weird. I feel like I've just been eulogized there. Thanks, Trenton. It's so fun to cross paths with you professionally again. Trenton and I've crossed paths in the past, so it's always a pleasure to be able to work with him. So good afternoon, wherever you may be. And I understand, it could be lunchtime. So if you're eating your PB&J, keep on eating it. Keep doing that. So I'm hoping, we're a small but fantastic group here today. I'm hoping we'll be a little interactive. So I am going to ask you some questions. So if you want to unmute and comment, I'm all for that. If you want to put it in the chat, that's why I have the amazing Marianne, who will help me monitor that kind of thing. But she is the gusto behind it all right there. Is Miss Marianne. So I'm happy to have her with me today. So as he mentioned, I've been in HR all my career. I've seen a lot of different companies. I've seen a lot of different industries. It's been a ride and I love it. I do. I love it. But particularly the last 3 years, how much the world of work has changed. So I think it's fascinating that this program even exists, that this certification program exists. So right out of the gate, I'd love to know your motivation to be involved here today. If you want to give me just something in the chat or verbally, what motivated you to be in the seat and part of this program? Crickets, crickets, crickets.
I'll start. I'm one of the instructors, coaches. I forget exactly what our title is for the ROI program here at Purdue in Indiana. And I figured the topic, given the description and stuff, would be very timely in terms of the sorts of questions that individuals may have, especially as we're seeing on the national front where remote work is balancing and whether or not it's going to continue as an option for people or not. I thought maybe I could learn something along the way. So thank you for doing what you're doing today.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. Anyone else want to share? What brings you here? Why do you want to be involved? If we're just counting credits, that's good too.
I'll go. I already work remotely. And so I just I heard about it through our university because we're I guess, starting to partner with it. And I'm just looking to increase my skills. I mean, I've been working remotely for a few years now, but I'm always looking for professional development.
It's ever changing, isn't it? Ever changing, especially the last 2 years. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get right after it. And hopefully technology will be our friend. I'm sure we've all experienced that in the last few years, conquering the technology. So we're going to talk about the challenges of remote work from an HR perspective. Being HR, we offer fractional HR support to small to medium-sized companies. And so we're kind of the mentor. We come in and do the big bad stuff or help assist HR professionals that are in growing companies. So I've seen this in a variety of industries, this conquering of remote work and what it means today versus 2 years ago. What is it going to mean for the future? That's really what we want to talk about right off the bat. So going to move forward. Trenton mentioned that I do like a little bit of humor. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit here. When I saw this, I laughed right out loud because I guess I can relate. Impact HR, we all work 100% remote. Unless we're with a client, we're all remote. And so I can really relate with this experience over the last couple of years, and maybe you will too, of, working from home should be so simple, right? Is it? Is it really? Let's see. Wait for it, wait for it.
When she works from home.
Hey, babe, you get that video I sent
Babe, I'm in a meeting.
you? Just check your phone.
The camera is on. They see you.
It's hilarious. You're still in the meeting.
Oh my God.
I just don't know how to use the air fryer. I put the chicken in, but it ain't
Okay,
working.
read the instructions. I can't help you right now.
Instructions?
I can't help you right now. I'm working.
Babe, where's the iron at?
Why? Why you always do
I
this?
gotta iron my shirt before I go.
Since when do you iron?
I don't iron. You do it. Can you do it for me?
I'm at work right now.
But you don't really look that busy.
Wow.
Can you do it for me real quick?
Get out of here. I have stuff to do.
You ain't even doing nothing. Yeah, I just learned this new dance. Look.
You do know I'm at work right now.
Man, what time you off?
4 o'clock, like every day. I ain't got time for this.
So I'm sure some of you have had an experience similar to that when we bring the workplace into our home, right? Not everybody's going to be quite as understanding of our boundaries and our limits. And so I just thought, I'm like, how many times have I been like given the side eye to somebody at the door? We're going to talk about some of those challenges of handling our workspace in the home. So first and foremost, though, when we talk about hot topics with HR from an HR perspective and remote work, when we come into an employer, one of the first places we start is with the controversy of employee versus independent contractor. I see this happen a lot when it comes to remote assignments. Sometimes an employer's thinking is, well, you know what, they're not on the work site. They work when they want to. They have some of their own tools. They're an independent contractor. We're just going to not count them as an employee. They're an independent contractor. I think it's important for both leadership and employees to understand the difference between the two and what that means. Just to complicate it a little bit more, employee versus independent contractor has two different types of tests to determine that. Two different government agencies. It's a federally regulated classification, but by two different groups. You've got the Department of Labor, who has their definition of what makes an employee versus an independent contractor. And then you have our friends at the IRS, who has their own test for what makes an employee versus an independent contractor. No surprise that the IRS is a little more complicated than the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor test is about 3 different criteria. The IRS is like 20. What a surprise, right? That they're a little more complicated. Common between the two is how much control for profit and loss, how integral the position is to the business as a whole, and the perks of work. So when we talk about that, I think it's important to appreciate, if I am an employee, there's certain things I'm entitled to. If I am an independent contractor, there's certain advantages, maybe for my tax situation in that. What is the difference and what is the employer's responsibility legally? So I always relate it to your plumber, right? The water heater goes out, we need a plumber. And you bring in a plumber, gives you a bid for the job, and puts you somewhere in their own schedule, right? If he puts in that water heater and he's able to find it at a cheaper price, then maybe he makes a little bit of profit there. If he goes to get the parts and they cost more, but you've agreed upon a price, he's going to have some loss, right? That makes him an independent contractor, as well as integral purpose to the business. Let's say I've got a work site and the water heater goes out and I bring that plumber in to fix that water heater. Business could go on without hot water, right? He's not a part of the business. But let's say I'm running a fulfillment center and I've got somebody remotely who manages my ERP system, and I'm going to make them an independent contractor, but they're actually determining the flow of the picking list and the number of orders for the day. Are they integral to the business? More than likely, yes. And that's an employee. And there's certain advantages that they should be afforded as an employee. And perks of work, the benefits, right? Even down to the company party and the Christmas ham. I may have some independent contractors as an employer, and it's Christmas time. I'm giving everybody a ham. I want to give it to that tech expert that we outsource. Should he get a ham? No ham for you. You have to come back as an employee, right? No perks of work if you're a contractor. You get to perk yourself. You get to write off your heat and your internet, and you have all those lovely tax advantages, but you're not going to get the Christmas ham. So I think it's important that we understand that. And why? Because the attitudes and legislation flip-flop frequently. And a lot of that has to do with what's happening in the White House. Who's controlling that legislation? In the Trump era, we're really focusing on gig work and really opening up the contractor, giving a lot more leeway to use this kind of gig economy. This legislation's kind of tightening that back down, we see, and they are more focused on the employer-employee relationship. Saw that most recently there was a court case or a fine from the Department of Labor that came out of Virginia. They had a agency that was medical aides and nurses, and they made them independent contractors because they set their own schedule and they could just go in and pick jobs they wanted to do, and they made them all independent contractors and were audited, and come to find out the major faux pas for them was the fact that these individuals were not eligible for overtime. And that cost that particular business $7.2 million in back pay and in fines. And so in the leadership role, you got to be cautious when we're looking at contractor versus employee. So I always I hit on it a lot because it's an important hot topic, but this is a great way to kind of compare what's an employee versus an independent contractor. And this comes straight from the Department of Labor. I've always said if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, more than likely it's a duck, right? So keep in mind that your employees, that you're working for someone else's business. You're helping them make the profits. You're not running your own. If you're running your own, you're an independent contractor. Employees are paid by the hour or a salary or by piece rate. And our independent contractor friends have a contract that they're negotiated for, and they're paid at the end of the project. Employees use employers' equipment and things are provided for them, and they're typically working for just that one employer. And they have this long-going relationship, hopefully, unless they're naughty. And so we want that long-term relationship. But as an independent contractor, I come in, I fix the water heater, I'm out, right? It's a temporary situation. And I have multiple clients or multiple folks that I work for and juggle business between. So I think it's just really important as you start to look at remote assignments, and maybe they're pitched to you as an independent contractor and not an employee. What does that mean to me individually? What is the risk and reward? And if I'm an employee, same type of scenario. Just appreciate the differences between the two. Okay, any questions there? All right, fun legal stuff. Let's keep moving. So let's talk about the employees first. All of us are somewhat employees that are working remotely, right? There are some hot topics I hear frequently from the employees that I work with. And when they're in remote situations, some of the differences of how their work has changed. And one thing I commonly hear is a missing of the visual on-the-job training. Sometimes we're in an on-site working relationship in a room together or in cubes together. I get to watch. I can observe body language. I can see interaction that takes place, and I can learn from that. Things pop up that are out of the ordinary, and I get to see how somebody else, maybe in a mentoring role, my boss, or even my coworker, handles that differently than maybe I would, and I can learn from that situation. Are we missing out on that visual learning that happens day to day, that visual mentoring that happens? How do I work around that? How do I be present and make sure I'm still getting some of those different ways of doing things, understanding processes, taking advantage of training like you are today, right? To keep those skills and look at things different from a different perspective, so we don't just stay in a single rut. Let's talk a little bit about connection. We hear this one a lot, particularly coming out of the pandemic and during the pandemic when everybody was hunkered down at home, there was this lack of connection. I'm curious from this group, either like I said in the chat or otherwise, tell me what you're thinking about when it comes to connection. Who is responsible for feeling that connection? Is that the boss's job? Is that my job? Is it the company's culture? Who's responsible for giving that connection, helping me feel connected? Any ideas?
I would lean more towards the culture of the company, because management has some responsibility. Each individual has other responsibility, but if that culture, if that communication and connection wasn't all that great before, when they go home, it's probably going to be even worse. And so, how does the communication, how does the connection happen? I think that's more of a culture issue myself.
Making sure your culture is strategically aligned with your mission and vision, right? That's some of that strategy on the back end of the company. And I'm going to go a step further, and I think it's everybody's job. I think we're all involved in that. I think employees can drive some of that connection, and simple things. Like here today, I love how many of you have your camera on. I think when you participate remotely, as much as you can use your camera on and they can visually see a face and make some eye contact is best. And I get that that's not always going to work in every situation. Maybe I am eating my PB&J. Then I applaud those who have their name and a picture. When camera's off, still connect me with an individual there. Don't make me just see the black screen that says iPhone 6, right? Like, how do I know who I'm even communicating with there? How can I have a connection? Maybe it's a personal picture of me. Maybe I've got my dog with me, whatever fits the culture, right? But little things that can keep that I'm a person on the other end here and keep that connection as a two-way street. Let's talk about those boundaries, right? In that little reel, we saw that there was the need for some physical boundaries. And I noticed somebody said, lock the door, right? And lock the door to keep everybody out. And there has been some differences in our house when during the big pandemic, when we were all home and I had a high schooler and a junior high and my husband, we were all around the kitchen table together and we were all like waving like shh, flags and things like that. We've learned some lessons along the way. We've all seen the horrible videos where somebody took the laptop into the bathroom or somebody walked through and we're learning to blur our screens and things like that. Those are good boundaries. My family's learned like what the door is doing to my office means whether it's an okay in or a total out. Totally out. So making sure we have those physical boundaries of workspace that's dedicated for work, I think that also ties into the emotional boundary. For those of us who work from home steadily, one challenge I have found is to turn it off. It is always there, right? Like I'm living at the office, right? I can hear those email chimes. I'm working with folks in different time zones and maybe even internationally, and they're popping in when it's supposed to be my me time. It's so easy to just stay on 24/7. It's important to set yourself with some limits of when I'm in the office and when I'm out so that you aren't consumed with work 24/7. That's bad. One more thing I would say in the boundaries too is when you're working fully remote for a full day, make sure you get outside. Like leave your desk for lunch, go have your sandwich on the porch, other than if you're here with me, right? But get some fresh air, walk out to the mailbox, make sure you can maybe sit by a window where you can see some sunshine and sky and green. Don't closet yourself in and just stay right there the whole time. That's not going to be good for the mental wellness for sure. I think that also with engagement, when we talk about engagement, that there's some purpose behind what we do. I love this little graphic that shows 4 criteria for workplace engagement, because I think people need to feel like there's a purpose to their work. I think it's important for employees to know that and leadership, right? That they feel like they're have values that align with the company, and that they're working for something bigger than themselves. That they have some good relationships, that we're attached to each other. We've got some relationships that they feel like they're known, and that they can look to somebody for some help and support, or if they just need to chat. Consider those factors when we talk about engagement, either supporting them or what I need. And if I'm not feeling engaged in my job right now, what is missing that I need to get more of? Also being sensitive to that workflow process. A lot of times when we are at home, we can't see the full picture. We've passed off our portion of the project. How are we managing the workflow? How are we making sure that the next step is where I've completed my part? A lot of technology tools out there, obviously, task management tools. Take advantage of that as much as you can. Make sure that the next step down the line is where, like, I'm completed, it's yours now, so that we don't have those gaps where we sit and wait for things to do. And I also think it's really wise for employees to have well-defined expectations. How do I know when I'm being successful in this role outside of the office? Because I may not see that process complete from start to finish. I'm not able to visually see when it makes it cross the goal line. How do I know personally I've made it across the goal line? I think you should be prepared to have those conversations with your supervisor. How do I know when I'm being successful in this role? And looking for that feedback, and then making sure that you're able to receive it and act upon it. Okay. So let's move on and talk about our leaders, right? The hot topics for leaders. They have a little more to worry about, and they have a lot of puzzle pieces they have to juggle. And as we've talked before, there is that engagement and connection, making sure you're monitoring the leadership side of that, and availability. I hear that so frequently when I work with companies that their workforce is remote, and from the employee's perspective, I don't really know when my leadership is available. Making sure there is a segment part of the day or the week that is just dedicated to, like, hey, you could pop by my office, so to speak. When we were in the office, we could see, oh, I could see my boss is in there. He just got off the phone. I can pop in and ask this question, right? We can't visually see that as well. As leaders, make sure there is a way that the team can know you are available. Either you've got some office hours that are dedicated, or a way that you're communicating, I'm free if you want to just pop in and ask me this question quick, and have that connection. That helps with that engagement. I've got a little statistic in here that highly engaged teams are 18% more productive and 23% more profitable. So who doesn't want that? The flip side of us, we've heard a lot about this quietly quitting, right? That people are disengaged from their job. The statistics for that show that only about 33% of the workforce in the United States is truly engaged. So then you take just a portion of that for those teams. That's a lot of disconnection. And what does that disconnection lead to? Turnover, loss of profits. Profits is not a bad word. Loss of productivity. How do we keep those folks engaged? I think leadership needs to well know the expectations of their team. Our workforce has changed so much that individuals from different generations, our Gen Z friends coming in, have really changed and have very different expectations than maybe I have had entering the workforce. And so as a leadership, I need to appreciate, what are those individuals' expectations coming into this working relationship? What are they expecting from the company? What are they expecting from me as a leader? I'm also seeing hot topics when it comes to work monitoring, privacy issues. Ugh. What do we keep private? What do we monitor? I see a trend for some companies feeling like, okay, my remote workers, I bet they're just home watching Netflix all day. Well, that's not the case, right? Productivity should show for itself. I'm either producing or I'm not. But some have taken the route of monitoring work, VPNs, and logging in and checking tasks and seeing where you're spending your time. I caution that you be very careful about the privacy of an individual and that relationship of respecting that work relationship versus privacy. Also, purposeful mentoring. We've talked about maybe I'm not able to see and watch some of the experts in action by being in the office. How can I make sure as a leader, my team has purposeful mentoring? Some of those with the expertise are spending time with those that are a little more green in the role. How am I making that happen during projects or other opportunities, making sure that they have a connection to be mentored besides just myself as a supervisor? Watching the stop gaps, those kinds of things. But one of the hottest things for my leaders, oh mercy, is this differences in states of work. Remote work opened up the door that I can be wherever and work whenever from wherever. Well, there's a flip side of that of responsibility for an employer, and that is the differences in legislation from state to state. Many don't appreciate that some states have labor laws that apply only to those who work in that state. Maybe I'm going to go to Hawaii for a month. Why not? Let's work from Hawaii for a month. What are the tax implications for that employer? I can tell you right now, the state of Hawaii says if you work one day on their soil, they want their portion of the employer tax. So you need to know, where are your people at? Where are they working from? What is the company policy in regards to the remote states they're working with? I work with several employers right now that have started to limit the states they want to work with due to the legislation. Some of those topics of those puzzle pieces I've listed for you there: paid sick leave, paid FMLA. What are the wage requirements in that state, minimum wage? And many states are putting into place equipment requirements. If I'm working from home, then your employer needs to be paying for your internet and your desk and your chair. We need to be aware where those individuals are moving and where they're doing the work from, so that we're compliant on that side of the employer-employee relationship. And that takes a lot of work to keep tracking. Also, team mental wellness. Trenton mentioned I'm a fan of doing humane policies. We are dealing with humans. We are people, right? We're not cogs in a machine, and we are messy from time to time. And it is all of our responsibility to take care of each other. And part of that in team leadership is it's a little more challenging in the remote work environment because I can't always visually observe body language. Sometimes when we're on site, it's very easy to see, oh, somebody's having a bad day. I can just feel it in their aura today. They're a little bit off. Something's happening, or they just got a phone call and I can tell they're upset. The challenge for me as a leadership is to develop some ways to communicate with my team and check in with them on just a general well-being. How do I know when I don't have those water cooler moments where I can see people's body language, or we just are chit-chatting around the snack machine, how they're really doing day to day, and how am I helping them to be well? What are the benefits that the employers offer in regards to mental wellness? It's a big deal these days, and we're talking about it more and more. I should be prepared when that conversation comes my way of how I can offer help appropriately. I am not a psychiatrist, though sometimes we feel like in HR we've got to get out our couch because everybody wants to come in and spend some couch time. Being careful to know how to help and when to move on to some expertise, right? Those are the challenges for our leaders. Are there other challenges, those of you who either are in the leadership role or you're looking at it from an employee, what I wish my boss knew or did in this remote work environment? Anything that you've come across either in the program, things you've learned, or that has worked or not worked for you? Does anybody have anything they want to share?
I can share. We talked about this in the class a little bit. I think because we're a fairly small team, and maybe I mean I'm a little bit newer to the team, even though I've been in the role before, but we don't really communicate at all. Like, and there's no set expectations. I feel like my position is more of a supervisory position because I'm over here on the east side of the state and my team is on the west side of the state. And it's just me. And so, and I don't know if that's how my supervisor feels, if she's totally cool with just letting me just run things the way I want, but I still have to get permission to do anything from her. And so that's kind of been hard to navigate a little bit. And then being able to go to my supervisor and say, hey, I'm learning all of these cool things and making sure that I do it in a way that's not going to step on her toes. And so there's been some challenges there with expectations and communication and all of those kinds of things.
I could see that. And I hear that frequently. I think that's kind of this new world of work that we're all kind of clogging our way through, but it's like it's here to stay. It's time to address those issues. Again, like, how am I being successful in my role? Because I'm going to guess some of that floundering, feels like you're a little bit floundering, has created some inefficiencies and maybe a little bit of stress that really isn't necessary, right? Time to have those conversations and set those boundaries. So I know expectations, and this is where you take the ball. I can take the ball to here, and this is where you take it from there. So great, good ideas. You're going to leave here with a good conversation to come. Can't wait to see how that turns out for you. So I would say that the world of work has changed forever, right? This last 2 years has changed the world forever. And nothing tells me that more than I pulled some statistics here from a recent article I saw in the Forbes magazine, a Gallup survey that was recent, just in June of this last year. In the last 6 months, well, 7, that 8 in 10 people were still working in a hybrid or remote situation. And only 2 in the 10 they surveyed were actually on site. That's almost mind-blowing to me that this far out, people are figuring out, we are figuring out how to do this differently. We're going to continue to figure out how to do this differently. And it's also becoming a little bit of an expectation. Folks have found the advantages, and I think employers have found the advantages of this new type of working together. So I can see here, like, they're predicting that 25% of all professional jobs in North America will be remote by the end of, I think that's a typo for me, sorry, 2024. In next year, 25%. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of professional jobs that will be doing work differently than they ever had before. And on the employee side, so many have become attracted to this type of work that it's becoming an expectation they're not willing to do without. So many are saying, like, if that situation came between choosing for this job and having to go back in the office versus staying at home, I'm going to leave the job. I'd rather have a remote situation for my work-life balance. It's better for my family. It's better for me. I'm not ready to give that up. I'm not ready to give that up. So I think it's something, again, in both the employee side of the scenario and employer leadership role. We've got to be thinking about, what are these expectations of the last 2 years? How do we continue to foster them successfully so that our employees feel supported and have opportunity, that they're feeling that they're being successful in their roles, but we are changing the way work is being done forever. So it's an exciting time. I think it's a really exciting time. So basically we say, now what? So what? We know all this information. We've touched on some of those hot topics. What does that mean for me today? I think as either an employee or a leader in this situation, we're going to continue to think outside the norm. I think we proved ourselves really well during 2020 when we thought the whole world was coming to a screeching halt, and it didn't. We were able to figure it out. Now, there were some bumps and bruises along the way, for sure, and maybe some inefficiencies and some things that got dropped, but we have figured out how to do things so differently today. I say that's going to continue. We're going to be required to think more creatively than we ever have in any period of work. And that means to be adaptive, but not rebellious. I find some individuals now that they've got this expectation of remote work, and if they the employer wants to dial it back or change some things, they want to dig in their heels and just be like, no, I'm doing it this way or not at all. I would encourage us all to be more adaptive than rebellious to the system. I think as a whole, that helps remote work as a whole environment get a better reputation. Also, I think that the courtesy, kindness, and inclusion, never more important than today. Figuring out how I am courteous online, how I'm kind to the individuals I work with online, and making sure that there is some inclusion. For our friends who are more introverted, remote work has been like the bonus, right? I don't have to deal with all those sticky people and those social situations, and I can just leave the camera off and all those things. Making sure that we're still challenging those individuals and pulling them out a little bit and keeping those connections, keeping everyone included is important. Also for leadership, as I've got maybe just one member of my team who's remote and the rest are on site, am I making sure that channel is really wide open, that they're communicated well with so that they know what happened in the workplace is transferring to those who are remotely out? Making sure that channel is really wide open and nobody is being left out in that communication can be challenging, but I've seen it done well. Keeping up on those tech trends. We're all going to become little tech experts. We've got to learn how to work with the systems and the platform and think about, boy, this could be easier if we could do this, and challenge our IT friends to bring it to the forefront for us. But we need to be proactive in understanding the systems and platforms that help us be more efficient. And being prepared for those value-added conversations. I have found some employees we've coached through of like, the employer really wanted to dial back, let's get all back on site, right? Let's come back in, it's time for everybody to come back in. And individuals that weren't ready for that, how they can have that conversation of how they add the value to the business by staying remote. You should be thinking about, what is the value I add to the big picture of this business by being remote? What are some of the cost savings or other things that I'm adding to this situation that makes this job and the position for me more attractive for my employer remotely? And most importantly, check in on each other. Like I said, we're responsible for each other. We should be making those connections. And maybe that means arriving to the meeting a few minutes early. And maybe instead of having a waiting room where I just leave everybody there until right when the meeting starts, we let them in and let them chit chat a little bit. Those social hours we kind of had, I saw a lot of online happy hours during 2020 where we'd get together and have lunch together remotely. I see that kind of starting to leave the workplace. I'm saying bring it back. Bring back the moments where we can just sit around and chat about our day to day. If the dog walks through the background, say, hey, that's a cute pup. Tell me about him. It's okay to introduce some personal life in our work life and keep that connection. So let's check in with one another frequently. Any questions or comments that you would like to give at this point? I hope we haven't bored you terribly today.
No, this has been great. So one thought that I've had, and maybe you can help address this. If a company's culture is a little bit less than what you've kind of talked about, how can an employee talk to their employer, and how can that conversation happen? What are some ways that the employer can be educated either from bottom up, or maybe help them figure out some of the ways that they can improve their culture? So what are some techniques in changing a culture in a company?
It can be a little difficult from the bottom up. I'm not going to lie. It's maybe a little slower, right? But I find a lot of employers nowadays appreciate that work is not just work, that employees are looking for an experience. They're coming in expecting more from the get-go. I see a lot more employers asking surveys, employee surveys, right? Asking the questions about what do you want in your workplace, or having those conversations like, what do you need more from us? I say come really prepared for those conversations. Don't be just like, nothing, we're great. Things are fine. Come prepared with what you need and try to influence that along your peers. If you're not feeling like you're missing out on some of that connection, then maybe you're kind of sponsoring some connection on that peer level. Can you drive it this way before you drive it that way, right? Make sure you're able to tell your boss where that value is of you being out of house versus in-house. And maybe that value as well is in the culture. Like, okay, I'm feeling like there's a little bit of a disconnect for me being out of house with the communication. What can we change in the culture of this working relationship to make sure I'm getting the communication out that you guys are having in? Sometimes it's just bringing it to their attention. They may not know. They may not know. We kind of think the boss knows everything. I'm going to tell you, they really don't, right? So look for the opportunities where they are actually asking for the feedback and then be prepared to give it. Don't just give the happy, oh, we're fine. I'm great. Everything's super, right? Does that answer, Trenton? Super.
Yes, that was good. Thank you.
Anything else before we have a little bit of fun? I have some fun. Okay.
I don't see anything in the chat, so.
Well, we've either put you to sleep or your brain is so exploding right now with information. You're not sure what to do with it, but we appreciate you spending some time with us, letting me just give you some opinion from our side of the fence. All of you at some point or another, probably going to have some interaction with the HR department, right? They're great. Don't fear them. We're good peeps over here. Learn to work with them, learn to help them do their job. That's a great source too. When you're talking about culture, if you're feeling a disconnect, talk to your HR friends. They are usually really motivated and interested in culture. So I wanted to have a little bit of fun and I'm going to do a little bit of a giveaway. This is from Impact HR, not from Utah State. So I got some gift cards. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So we're going to play who is closest to me and who is farthest away. So we're talking connection. So I'm going to have you Google Map. Are you ready for this? You're going to put in 125 West, 400 North in Mapleton, Utah. I'm in Mapleton, Utah, right? And we're going to see some mileage. Who's the farthest? So 125 West, 400 North, Mapleton, Utah. Who is going to be closest to me? You're going to have to put your mileage in the chat, and Miss Marianne's going to help me figure out. She's going to be my math whiz.
Could you give that address again?
125 West, 400 North, Mapleton, Utah. That's the center of town for me. It's the city offices. All right. I see somebody's 294 miles. Anybody closer than 294 miles?
I think so. I'm exempt, so I can't.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm exempt, but there is. So I think there is one closer.
Is there?
Got to answer.
Got to answer if you want in. This is for $30 to Texas Roadhouse. Woo, because they opened a new one in Spanish Fork, the big city of Spanish Fork, Utah. So I was going to go, take yourself to lunch, get on out of the house, get a little ribs or something. It might be
Onion blossom. That's what I would order.
get your onion blossom and then go back and work remotely.
That's right.
Oh, we've got some far people.
Whoa.
Okay. Well, if nobody else, it might be Kara. I hope you know what a Texas Roadhouse is by you. It might be coming to you. All right, our farthest away.
That's my favorite, but somebody beat me.
Oh, really? Did I miss it?
Yeah. Valerie's 115 miles.
Valerie for the win.
About 1,450.
Oh,
You're the farthest.
I think you're gonna win, man. I think you're gonna win. All right.
It's a straight shot, straight across the country.
It is. I'm sending you $30 to Amazon because you need fuzzy slippers and a Stanley, you're staying at home. You're too far. You're too far for us to meet for lunch. So if the two of you, I've got my email address on there, my two winners. If you want to email me a mailing address, we'll shoot you a little fun in the mail and give you an excuse to get up from your desk and walk out to the mailbox and get something from the mail. All right, way to play. Any other questions or things we can do for you today?
Feel free to just unmute yourself if you have a question. See, Kara, did you have?
No, this is one of the downsides to working from home when your spouse works from home.
Talking to each other.
We're talking to each other.
I don't call that a downside. I'm going to call that an upside.
No, it is, except for when we're in meetings and talking to each other. You're like,
That's
you
when you
have
give
a question?
It's the side eye. Remember, like, are you on or
I know. I mean, pull up my my coaches.
It's all good. I'm gonna go back to we are humans, and sometimes humans are messy. We're gonna forgive each other and move on. So it's been lovely to be with you today. I hope we've maybe given you some ideas or some things like, oh, I haven't thought about that. I maybe need to watch that, or some ideas for conversations that you need to have. We're happy to help out. I love to connect with people. I'm that people person. So let's connect either LinkedIn or shoot me an email if you've got a question down the road. And go Aggies, right? Whoop, whoop, go Aggies.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate you coming, and thank you, Marianne, for helping out as well. And thank you all for joining us today. This will be on our YouTube channel within the next few days. So for those that want to share it or view it later, we'll say hello and welcome to those that and goodbye to those who watched all the way through.
Good job.
Thank you, Leslie.
You bet. Thanks for having us today. It's been great. Don't forget to email me, winners.
All right.
Have a good one.